Hey there, Libertarian vice presidential nominee Bill Weld might not have made the cut for last night's debate, but he says the gloves are still coming off in the remaining weeks before the election, and he's coming for the Donald. Weld and his running mate Gary Johnson have more or less pulled evenly from Republicans and Democrats, but Weld says he wants to ensure a Trump defeat and maybe help rebuild the Republican Party from the rubble. The former governor of Massachusetts joins me now. Welcome to the show, Governor.
Hey, Kennedy. Good to be with you.
Thank you very much. So you had a tough time getting out of the Libertarian nominating process not too long ago, and you promised that you were going to be a Libertarian for life. It sounds like you are now backing out of that promise.
No, that's not true. You can be curious about the future of the Republican Party if it divides in two, even if you have the Libertarian capital L hat on, and that's certainly my intention.
Well, it sounds like based on the people that you've talked about aligning with, including people like Mitt Romney, and you are focusing so much of your energy against Donald Trump, that's not where Libertarians are focusing their energy at all. In fact, it sounds like the people who were skeptical of you entering this presidential race and the Libertarian ticket, you were just doing so to really increase your own profile.
No, we've got the blue states and red states that we're going to. The next three states I'm going to are Massachusetts, Maine, and New Hampshire, which none of those is a red state. So, you know, Gary and I are absolutely in this for the duration. We continue to think that we've got an appealing platform which is fiscally responsible, which the Democrats are not, and socially inclusive and welcoming, which the Republicans are not. And that combination describes about 60% of the people in the country. We just have to get name recognition, which we don't have yet. So it's a very simple formula, and it involves going all the way around the country the next umpty-ump days, both red states and blue states.
Well, there are actually far more nuanced principles that govern most ideological libertarians, and the way that you and Governor Johnson have been patently describing yourselves, that doesn't describe the people who have helped you get to the point where you are at now. And I can't help but think that you have used this foray into the pool of libertarianism as some sort of a platform to further your own agenda, which has nothing to do with freedom and liberty.
Well, we told the truth at the Libertarian Party convention. It is true that I've made no bones about the fact that I'm running as myself. But when I was a Republican, I ran as myself. I never, ever bought into the movement conservative social positions of the Republican Party, such as being anti-choice on abortion and setting their face against marriage equality or civil rights even for gays and lesbians, and never pretended that I did. So I've always been myself. The one promise that Gary Johnson and I made to each other in embarking on this ticket is that we were always going to tell the truth, and we do play straight baseball.
Well, it doesn't seem like you've been playing straight baseball at all. In fact, you've been playing a totally different sport. You've been playing for the Bill Weld team, which is one of the things that has been so disenchanting. Now, you left the State House in Massachusetts for that Mexico ambassadorship under Bill Clinton. Unfortunately, Jesse Helms wouldn't entertain a Senate hearing in your favor, and you had to drop your name from consideration 5 months later. Are you repaying Hillary Clinton by campaigning against Donald Trump, and are you in fact actively campaigning for Hillary in that way?
No, I'm not actively campaigning for anybody except Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, and we're not repaying anybody. We're moving straight ahead with what we think is a winning argument, that this is a year when, you know, voters looking at the two establishment parties are thinking, I'm watching a scary movie and I can't change the channel. Well, you can change the channel. If voters think for themselves, I think that it's still possible that they will decide, the majority of the voters, that the libertarian combination of being fiscally responsible and socially tolerant and inclusive is the winning combination.
All right. Well, Neil Cavuto earlier asked the presidential nominee on the Libertarian ticket, your running mate, Gary Johnson, about his voting for, or his rather support for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And here's what Governor Johnson had to say.
It just could be me reading between the lines that maybe you and he have such a ill disposition toward Donald Trump that if you had your druthers, you'd prefer Hillary Clinton?
Well, no, I prefer neither one.
Do you prefer Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think there's a difference in emphasis between me and Gary on that, but that's been true since our very first television appearance in this race. I do think that Mr. Trump's proposals in the foreign policy area are so wrong-headed that they're in a class by themselves, yes.
Now, Gary has made a number of gaffes. Are you embarrassed by Governor Johnson?
No, no. And I think pop quizzes is not really the acid test of who's going to be a good president. Even, you know, Syria. I think Gary's policy pronouncements on Syria, even since before the Aleppo incident, have been right on the money. We can't go in every time we see a regime that we don't like and arm the rebels and then have the rebels lose and have our arms wind up in the hands of ISIS, our enemies. That's an unintended consequence of being too quick to pull the trigger on regime change, and I think Gary Johnson is absolutely right about that.
All right, you know who else is right about that? Dr. Ron Paul, who is the godfather of the modern libertarian movement. He says to vote green. He says to vote for Jill Stein. Do you take that as a personal slight?
No, no. And I said yesterday that I've always liked Ron Paul. I think he was a real trailblazer for a lot of limited government principles that I believe strongly in. But you know, it's clear to me, Gary Johnson and I can't whine. We can't say we want help from somebody else to put us over the top. This is something we've got to do the old-fashioned way, one vote at a time, and it's called doing it yourself, and that's what we're setting out to do.
All right, Governor Weld, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.